A country of legends, the mystical crossroads of the Salt Route and the Silk Route, lying between Tibet, the Chinese giant to the north, and imposing India to the south, Nepal is a country of contrasts. Today, this new republic, after a long civil war and years of an authoritarian monarchy, has 28 million inhabitants in an astonishing mosaic of ethnic groups and castes, speaking 75 languages or dialects. Nepal used to be called the abode of the gods, with Hinduism and Buddhism playing a great role in the life of the Nepalese. These two religions mix and sometimes even merge. Nepal has never known a religious war, and its people still venerate a living goddess. From the roof of the world and the majestic Himalayan chain, some of whose peaks tower over 8,000 meters high, one first descends towards the temperate plateau of Kathmandu at 1,500 meters, then plunges down to the tropical Terai Plain only about 100 meters above sea level at the Indian frontier. This is a descent which reminds us of the profound extremes of misery lived in by many people in Nepal. Since 1985, the non-governmental organization Terre des Hommes and its local team have set up numerous projects in Nepal. In this country, 1 child in 2 lives in a state of chronic malnutrition. Although cultivated here, there is not enough rice, the basic foodstuff of the Nepalese, to feed everyone. With the global food crisis and speculation in agricultural products, the price of this staple foodstuff has exploded. Within a short time, its cost doubled, with disastrous consequences to the population. In Durbar Square in the center of Kathmandu, capital of Nepal, a group of volunteer workers have organized a street performance today to mark World Food Day. Their aim is to increase public awareness of the daily growing suffering of the poorest of the poor. With drastic rises in the price of food, petrol, and gas, the majority of the population can no longer make enough money to live a dignified life. A local association called Chimekis, meaning neighbors in Nepalese, is very active in Kathmandu and other towns in Nepal. For families who left the countryside and hope to find a better life in town, for those women who arrived with children and are looking for work, the Chimekis have set up child development centers where the little ones can be cared for on a daily basis. Babies who are no longer exclusively breastfed and children up to school age are accepted, leaving their parents free to go to work. The children can play there, are given meals, have naps, and are weighed once a month to check for nutrition problems. Each parent gives as much time as possible to help the center function, and thus they also feel responsible for its smooth operation. Thanks to the strong feeling of solidarity of the Nepalese, more than 1,000 volunteers are part of this association of Chimekis. Terre des Hommes supports them by offering technical and financial assistance, which makes it possible for sound, sustainable projects to be established and to avert even more acute crises. In Nepal, many families from the mountain areas became displaced during the conflict. Some of them live in flimsy huts of mud or wood, which can hardly stand up to bad weather. With the support of Terre des Hommes, a child development center has been constructed in brick, where children from all walks of life are welcomed. In Kathmandu, rented accommodation is too expensive for families coming straight from the countryside. They have no alternative but to set up home in poor areas, like Quarter 34, a slum built up over 10 years on the banks of a muddy, polluted river. Living conditions are hardly endurable, but despite this, 600 families live there. Dirt, lack of drinking water, nearness to the river, so many dangers threaten the children and worry the parents. Just here, it was decided to set up, between the hovels, a child development center, which is one of the few solid buildings around.
When we ask the parents, why did you send your child to this center, the answer is usually for protection reasons. First, at home there may be problems, there may be protection issues, they may live in a small room, there may not be safety. Here, in this center, by contrast, everything is done for the child to be safe. There is staff, there is a small fence around the compound, and the parents feel as confident as the child feels safe.
Leaving the urban district, after a 3-hour drive and an hour's hot climbing on foot, we arrive in the region of Lalitpur. The locals live mainly by livestock farming and crop growing. Visits to the field are organized by Terre des Hommes as part of the fight against the malnutrition which is rife in this region. We're going to meet the women of the neighboring villages who are gathering as part of monthly growth monitoring to have their babies weighed and to check their weight charts.
The mother has succeeded in breastfeeding her child for 12 months, and you can see here that the child has grown well and normally.
With advice from the local partners of Terre des Hommes, these women are learning to prepare complete, nutritive meals. For example, this one of green vegetables, lentils, and rice, a puree called jaulo. Combined, these 3 ingredients contain everything necessary for energy, immunity, and growth. In these training courses, the women are told, amongst other things, that a sick child quickly loses its appetite and must be given frequent small quantities so it can recover. Without this work and information, many children would suffer from severe malnutrition. This group of 20 women meets every month. They manage to save enough money to buy a goat to raise and later give a small goat to each family. Thanks to such great solidarity, they have been able to improve their daily life. Visits to families are also organized to make sure the mothers apply what they have been taught. After 11 years of war and the state of severe poverty in which Nepal now finds itself, the main danger for children is to become victims of trafficking. Most of them are originally from the mountain regions, where the conflict was heaviest. Many children have lost at least one parent, and families have been torn apart. It is estimated that at least 7,000 children a year are given away, sold by their relatives, or abducted by traffickers. Most of them end up as domestic slaves, as child laborers, or as victims of sexual exploitation and prostitution. In Kathmandu alone, it is reckoned that more than 3,300 little girls between 11 and 15 are forced into prostitution. Some, like Puja, got free and they live together in a center for survivors supported by Terre des Hommes, who offers them education, training, and if possible, a future. In these mountains, we meet the well-known Swiss mountaineer Jean Troyet. He has been going to Nepal regularly for over 25 years and has climbed several 8,000-meter Himalayan peaks.
Quelle journée, hein? On voit pas tout ce qui est sale en bas, tout c'est couvert. Le reste, la beauté est là au-dessus.
We take him to a school where Terre des Hommes and its local partners run a campaign of information and prevention against child trafficking.
Moi, je connaissais du Népal.
I knew something about mutilation and begging. I saw it in Nepal, but not prostitution. That's horrible.
Do you have the impression that tourists are conscious of that?
No, I really didn't know about it. I really support what Terre des Hommes is doing here to raise awareness. Nobody realizes the intense suffering of the girls and their families, as it's not visible to outsiders.
The very first Terre des Hommes project in Nepal began in 1985 with the opening of an orthopedic hospital for children and adolescents in the Kathmandu region. This hospital is only for children under 16 who are physically disabled and from a low-income family. Nepal is a mainly mountainous country, as we have seen. To survive in these mountains, with difficult access roads and paths, one must be in good health. A broken leg or a disability can have dramatic consequences. Many children are born with a congenital deformation, such as a clubfoot. Others become disabled after a bad fall, for example from a tree while cutting leaves for goat fodder. And yet other children are disabled due to a badly treated infection or an injury. This is why doctors and social workers travel each year through the most remote areas of Nepal looking for children needing orthopedic treatment.
Welcome to. Thank you.
It is also here that orthopedic aids such as prostheses, shoes, and wheelchairs are manufactured. Since its opening, the hospital in Banepa has taken in nearly 30,000 children. In Nepal, more than 100 children die of hunger every day. Thousands of little boys and girls become victims of trafficking. Underage girls are forced into prostitution. Disabled children are cast away and discriminated. Terre des Hommes has been working for them every day for 23 years. It gives them back hope and dignity and opens up a future. But there is still so much to do. Let's do it together.